Let's see, we have a sign-up sheet right over here in case anybody wants to sign up to be a witness. So, good afternoon. Hope everybody's having a good day. Let's go ahead and get started with today's House Judiciary Committee. I believe we only have one bill on the agenda. So, if you would bow your heads with me, as we always do, let's begin with a word of prayer. Lord, thank you as always for allowing us to meet today. We ask that your wisdom will be in this room and help the members of this committee consider the proposals before us and do what is best for the people of the state of Georgia. Bless us and keep us as we move forward. Thank you for all our blessings. Amen. All right. Vice Chairman Jones, you have House Bill 538. How about present to the committee your bill?
Thank you, Chairman Fleming. I've been in this body almost 4 years. I've heard the phrase, "This is a simple bill," several times from the well. This is not one of those times. The challenge that we have, and I mentioned it to Chairman Kelly's subcommittee, we are in that rare time where none of us on the committee have ever been exposed to this during our professional life. And this is unusual because typically everything that comes through this committee, at least one of us can say, well, in my practice, and then fill in the blank. In this case, we don't have that benefit. So what I'd like to do is, first and foremost, for the members of the Kelly subcommittee, I apologize. I'm going to be a little repetitive. And for those of you who are not on the Kelly subcommittee, this will be new. But ultimately, what we would like to do is take away deference. And that's in relating to a case, the Chevron case of 1984. Some quick history. In 2012, this body, along with the Senate and the governor, created the tax tribunal. That tax tribunal, through today, has been subject to Chevron deference. I'll be frank with you, when I first learned of Chevron deference, I thought we were regarding to the trading of its securities, but it's not. In fact, it comes down to a pretty important piece of how a judge within the tribunal or the superior court must act. So let me take you through the two prongs that a judge has to be thinking about. The first prong is the statute clear? If the statute is clear, we don't have this question in terms of deference. We never make it to the second rung. If it is not, and it is ruled by the judge to be ambiguous, we go to the second rung. Today, what occurs inside with the judge is we have, in effect, a deference to the regulatory body. In this case, this is the DOR. If the judge determines that the DOR's interpretation or ruling is reasonable, then the judge has no choice but to abide by the DOR's ruling or interpretation, even if the taxpayer, and the taxpayer being an individual or a corporation, has a better argument in the judge's opinion. So what we'd like to do with this bill is take away that deference requirement and rather have both sides walk into the tribunal or walk into the superior court and effectively give their arguments just like we would expect to, and frankly, I believe how many of our constituents expect a courtroom to work. And then at that point, the judge may accept the DOR's interpretation. By no means does this mean they cannot, but they can also accept what the taxpayer is asking for. Ultimately, this comes down to fairness. This comes down to treating each one of our citizens, may they be an individual or a corporation, with the same amount of equity that we would expect if we walked into a courtroom, and we would not want the judge's hands tied by something that they deem to be reasonable but not superior. And what I mean by that is, if I'm sitting as a judge and one side gives me a superior argument, or I believe it to be much, a better interpretation of an ambiguous statute, and yet I'm still tied to the fact that I must defer to what the DOR is saying. By no means am I implying the DOR does anything wrong. What I'm saying here is what we want to do is unshackle the judge and give them the ability to look at both sides of it. So to the effect that all of us are limited on experience, I have been joined by two individuals. One is Marshall Guest from the Metro Chamber, and the other is Jonathan Feldman. Jonathan will be our SME during this conversation, if that's okay, our subject matter expert, given the fact that his practice is within tax and has been in front of the tax tribunal, the Superior Court, and others on many occasions. I think it was important, given our lack of subject matter expertise here, to have someone here who could act as that. With that said, Mr. Chairman, that's all for my closing. Pardon me, for my opening remarks.
Representative, would you like for your two witnesses to speak before we begin taking questions, or do you want to take them at this point?
I'd go ahead and take questions. I've gone ahead and done the introduction.
Okay. Go ahead and take questions from the panel for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Let's see. Is that Representative Welch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vice Chairman, thank you very much for presenting the bill and bringing the bill. Is it not true that the responsibility for interpreting and stating what the law is the exclusive power of the judicial branch?
I would say that to be the case, yes.
So when we, by the case law or by statute, surrender that power, which I don't know that we can by statute, but when decisions have come down that cede the power of the judiciary to say what the law is, by effectively looking to the executive branch to tell them what the law is in a judicial proceeding, is that not a forfeit of the powers of the judiciary?
Chairman Welch, I think that the implication is definitely there, sure.
So what you're doing is you're trying to rectify a violation of the separation of powers between the judiciary and the executive branch and ensure that we write the laws in one and the judiciary branch reads the laws in the other and tells us what it is without giving the deference, the overruling majority of the weight in that statutory construction to another branch of government.
I think that's in fair interpretation. The only thing I would add is given the fact that the Supreme Court did rule in '84 regarding this deference, I think we're in a little bit of murky water there, but I do believe this is in fact clear in terms of separation of powers.
The Supreme Court, including our own state Supreme Court, has made incorrect constitutional decisions before and has overridden itself before. Is that not true?
That is very true, and I think we've seen both from the congressional level and even from the courts themselves, we've seen that Chevron has been, I'll say, limited in many instances over the last 30 years.
And in maintaining a separation of powers and allowing one branch to read the law and say what the law is, the judiciary, is it not our responsibility to write the law for what we think it should say and correct it when we think that maybe the courts have gone astray?
I think you're spot on. I'd love to hear them say, if it is ambiguous, let us know. We'll clear it up for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Jones, and isn't it also true that we try to guarantee all our citizens in Georgia the right to a impartial judge, hearing before a judge their concerns with the best representation they can afford possible?
Chairman Silcox, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the Representative Jones from members of the committee? All right. You want to introduce your witnesses again, possibly? Or did you want them to talk?
I think we're good if we don't have any questions for them.
All right.
Yeah, they were here for Q&A.
Do we have anybody signed up? Julius, would you look at that for us, please? Okay. These two right here. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's it from you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. The bill is before the committee. No one else has indicated that they have any questions. We have no witnesses signed up other than the two that are here. Is that Chairman Welch?
Move that we recommend do pass.
There's a motion and there's a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill moves on to rules. Congratulations. We're adjourned.